This podcast is brought to you by the Nutwani Coalition's Farm Talk podcast. The Nutwani Coalition has been serving the Hopi and Tewa community since 2004. They work to reaffirm and preserve traditional farming practices to create a healthy lifestyle in developing sustainable strategies that promote wellness. Go to nutwanicoalition.org. That's NATWANICOALITION.org to learn more.
Oenvioma Law, PLLC, is a national firm focused on the practice of Indian law and is headquartered in Tempe, Arizona. Oenvioma Law brings together 25 years of combined experience in transactional business and economic development law with seasoned litigation and tribal advocacy experience to provide their tribal clients with the expertise and breadth of a full-service law firm. They can be found at vtklaw.com.
Playing and thinking that everybody thinks that you're actually the ninja in the field when everybody knows that it's not real.
All right, let's go on. Before you
lose all your funny.
Before I lose all my funny, and because it's getting hot in here.
Oh yeah, it is pretty hot. Okay.
All right.
Oh, hey, other thing I wanted to point out to you too. I think people are ready to start listening to us for an hour.
For an hour?
Yeah.
Oh
I mean, it doesn't like 50 minutes. 50 minutes plus the ads, it'll be like 55.
Yeah, it already does go up to about 50 minutes with the ads.
Let's make the 50 the minimum.
Okay.
Of talk time. 50 minutes.
Then that's like an hour with
yeah.
the ads and stuff like that.
I think people are ready to listen to
us. Oh, man. Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do a whole hour, I guess.
Let's do it.
I still don't want to listen to you for a whole hour.
It's because I talk.
Sometimes I don't want to listen to myself for a whole hour.
Quarters of the time. You only talk a quarter. All right. You ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Starting to sweat.
Go ahead.
You are now listening to the Carl and J-Man Save the World podcast. I am your host, the 5-star, 5-diamond chef, J-Man. And with me is my colleague, Captain Sweatpants, Carl.
Yo, what's going on? Good morning, Hopi land, and happy Wednesday to you. And we are back in the studio here.
We are back in the studio, and I had it thought out. I had a so much better introduction for you. I was going to say the guy formerly known as Carlton, aka Captain Sweatpants.
You know, I was gonna rap for you guys, so
Larry's little brother, Carl.
So I was going to rap for you, but it has been a great break from the studio. We missed you guys. Congratulations for congratulations for you listening to us. I like to thank you all, and
you're also deserving of this award.
The YAF boys out there have been taking good care of you guys. If you listen to the YAF boys, but YAF boys, you can sit on the bench now. Let the real players come in now.
The Musitahas up in Phoenix. We're having a good time while we were gone, and now that we're back, but definitely like to thank them for holding it down.
Oh yeah,
because a lot of what we're going to talk about today does kind of hover around the realm of a lot of what their conversations usually, I guess, kind of take place with their podcast, but definitely happy to be back. It feels like it's been a long time since we've been gone. It
has been a long time.
And this break that we took in between season 5 into season 6 was a lot longer than our usual time that we break for. But definitely, full disclosure to the listeners, I think we needed it.
Yeah, exactly.
I know that I needed it.
You always take breaks. I don't know why you needed that. You're always on vacation somewhere, so.
A lot of those are business trips, Carl.
Not getting us money.
Oh, I got us all the money, Carl. I'd like for you to identify a single check that has come through that was thanks to you. Exactly.
All of this stuff here was through my contribution. So you should thank me for sponsoring you.
Well, I think there's a lot of podcasters out there that do podcasts on laptops, on their phones even. So not necessarily a reasoning as to why we possibly couldn't exist. You gave it a nice try.
I made you famous.
You gave it a nice try.
I made you famous.
You wish you did.
All right. So, well, thank you guys for, continuing to listen to us. I'm pretty sure that J-Man here has a lot of shout outs that he wants to give out. So, go ahead and do your little shout out game here.
I'd like to give some shout outs to some very special people that help fund the podcast. And without you, our existence here wouldn't be possible, as much as Carl likes to brag about that, how he brought his toys to the party, which he did. But then J-Man brought all the 30 packs. Well, actually, you all did. And so I'd like to give a big big thank you to Alexis Cahey, Michaela Williams, Terry Hanani, Deidre Leslie, Venetia Hanani, Rachel Reinhart, Noel Koyahoma, Aaron McEmrys, Navamsa Designs, Joyce Hamilton, Jairus Mark Billigodi, Donovan Goldtooth, Dion Sania, our boy Millard Goanyama, Gary Lomayesva, and Michelle Holden. Thank you. Big shout out. Big kwakwa to our 30-pack sponsors. Our 30-pack
yeah, exactly. Thank you guys. Without you guys, none of this would exist here. And without you contributing here, we might as well be listening to J-Man speak for a whole hour.
Which I think a lot of people would appreciate, and which is a reason why I think that a lot of the 30-pack sponsors are here. And not to mention just our 30-pack sponsors, but our actual sponsors of the podcast, our big contributors. So another huge shout out to Terraform Development. Big shout out to Koan Veoma Law, PLLC. Big shout out to our boy Varen, Koan Veoma. And then also a big shout out to Nurturing Indigenous Intelligence, who are generously sponsored by an anonymous sponsor. And another big shout out, or first shout out, followed by another big shout out to Farm Talk, hosted by the Nut One Coalition.
Yeah,
who is a nonprofit organization under the Hopi Foundation umbrella. So I guess pretty soon we won't be the only podcasters emanating from the Hopi Reservation, but definitely big shout out to Farm Talk. They're about to get set up, and then once they get set up, we'll definitely be encouraging you all to give them a listen.
Yeah, go and listen to Farm Talk. They're very great people out there. But we're gonna go ahead and I'll give my shout out. Okay. I have shout out.
I can't imagine. Well, actually, before you give that shout out, I'd also like to give a shout out to our at-home sponsor. Give a shout out to Peace Academy Center for
Peace Academy Center,
Peace Academy Studios, and so big shout out to KNEF and the organization here for housing us, taking care of us, and making sure that we're not homeless.
Oh, exactly. Over the break, when we were doing when we're just doing all our willy-nillys and stuff like that. And it was during that rainstorm.
What did you do during the break?
Carved it.
Talk about breaks. What did you do during the break? You like to talk a whole lot about what J-Man does on his free time. But
what do I do over there?
What did Captain Sweatpants do on his free time?
Eat pizza, wear sweatpants around, carve a doll, sell it on Etsy. Regular stuff, normal Hopi stuff. But over the course of the break, we had this huge rainstorm that hit the Hopi Nation. And we did talk about that on our last podcast.
On our last bonus episode.
Yeah, our last bonus episode. And there was some people that were helping out with this, with people's houses that did get flooded.
Oh, really?
And I went over to one of the houses that did get flooded, and it was my neighbor's house. And in my neighbor's house, there was these people. There's these two dasavus there that were helping. And I said, I was just wondering if they needed anything that I can provide from my own help. And one of the boys that were there, he recognized me. He's like, are you Carl from Carl and J-Man Save the World podcast? And I'm like, yeah. And he was so excited about that. And he's like, oh my God, it's so, it was such a blessing for him to meet me in person. He's like, oh man, I love you guys. You guys are so funny. And I was like, okay, well, thank you. Thank you for that. So do you still need that screwdriver? And stuff like that. And he's like, can I take a picture with you? And he's like, yeah, you can take a picture with me. And so, shout out to Taylor and Lane Benally. from I think it was from Kayenta. I think that's what they were from.
Okay.
Yeah. So, those are the two guys that really encouraged me to keep going and whatnot. And they did help out with the flood victims. And
Awesome.
So shout out to them.
So a big shout out to Taylor and Lane Benali. And shout out to you, Carl, because for the duration of time that it took me to shout out over 15 30-pack sponsors and our 4 lovable sponsors, you took the same time to introduce 2.
Mine has a little bit more pizzazz. Yours just reading from a script.
So I'm sure that when the listeners out there are, having these restless nights and wanting to fall asleep, they isolate the part of the podcast where you talk, and they turn that on, and then that is able to help them fall asleep. And so, big shout out to Carl. Thank you for that. Thank you for giving aid to our listeners who do have issues.
So after about
sleeping.
So after about 10 minutes worth of shout outs and
after about 5 minutes worth of shout outs and 5 minutes of Carl and his flood story, we are here. We actually have a topic today.
Yeah, we have a topic today.
We actually have a topic today, and that topic is going to be reservation dogs.
Yeah, reservation dogs.
No, it's not what you're thinking out there. It is not the new FX HULU hit, Reservation Dogs, about the teens in Oklahoma. We're actually going to be talking about Native men. But speaking of Reservation Dogs, HULU, FX, have you seen the show?
No, that's too stereotypical for Native Americans, man.
I think that it's a very popular show amongst Native folks, because then you have a lot of Native folks sharing that they have watching it, that they have been watching it or are watching it through social media. And I think I've actually watched the show myself. I'm caught up. I've watched all 4 episodes that are out right now, but it comes out every Mondays, I believe.
Oh, really?
And it's about these teens, these 4 teens who are trying to escape Oklahoma, which is Indian territory, and they're trying to make their way to California because I guess in their perception that where they're living on the reservation, that it's death for them. And so that if they stay there, then they're going to succumb to all of the other traps and I guess death traps that a lot of us do, the alcoholism, drug abuse, I guess just living in a life in a dead-end job. And so, basically they didn't want to grow up to be like the rest of us. And so they're trying to escape Oklahoma. But I think that a lot of folks enjoy it is that because it brings a contemporary twist to res living. Yeah. And so basically, if you go all the way back to our growing up res episodes, that basically, it's if somebody had heard that episode and then created it into a show.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, like, I saw the trailer for it and I thought it was pretty cool. They hyped it up a lot, where it's going to be the first Native American owned show, pretty much.
TV show.
Yeah, the TV show.
I think that they hyped the fact that it's an all Native cast. The writers are Native, and then like a lot of the producers, people that are involved behind the scenes are Indigenous as well. And it's funny because then they use like a lot of the Native slang that we've talked about, like Skoden and Studis, and there's a couple of others that they do. And it made me laugh because there's this one part where one of the characters says, they visit an uncle that's living in the middle of nowhere. And he tells them that I'm living off the land. But then one of the characters looks in the uncle's house and she sees a lot of bags and cups from Sonic. And so she says, yeah, you're living off the land and Sonics. But she said it with the S at the end. And so I know all
the Sonics.
Yeah, so I know all the Silvas got all mawatyo about that. And it made me laugh because I know one of the writers, his name is Bobby Wilson. He's part of that 1492s or 1491s or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
That comedy group was from back in the day. But I know that Bobby, and he's married to Atasapwiti.
Oh, really?
Who got her medical degree from the University of Arizona. And so I know that through my time when I worked at the University of Arizona. So I know that when she said Sonics with the S on it, that I knew that one of the writers was trying to insert a little bit of Navajo in there. And so that was kind of the funny thing. And so it was probably Bobby. Bobby's just trying to suck up to his wife. And so, but shout out to Bobby. Shout out to everybody out there working on Reservation Dogs. And so if you haven't seen it, I do encourage you all to go see it, because if you like shows or if you like movies like some of the movies that we've talked about, Smoke Signals, And I think the other one was called Skins. That it's very similar to those, except that it's younger and, a little bit more comedy to it.
I was watching Smoke Signals with Gua the other day, and I haven't seen the movie in almost 3-4 years.
Oh, really?
And I forgot all about the scenes and different things like that. And then when you go back and watch it, it's so dark.
Yeah.
That movie is so dark. It's so it's almost like a horror movie. The music in there, it's so dark, and you're like, I don't remember when this is playing on. When they were getting on the bus. The first time, there's this music that plays behind it, and it's so dark and melodic. And it's like, wow, it's like a change in tone. And when they're actually singing the John Wayne's teeth thing, it didn't sound like how you would hear it in your head. Like, John Wayne's teeth, hey, it just sounded weird. And I'm like, this is weird movie. It's like, I don't remember any of this thing here. So it was just a weird turn of events.
And that was one of the things that I did notice about Reservation Dogs, is that they did a pretty good portrayal in a lot of things that a lot of people like us could relate to. Like if you grew up on the reservation, they did an episode where the kids are waiting at IHS all day long, to get seen. And it's like, who hasn't experienced that? Even if you're living in Phoenix, that you've been to the Phoenix IHS, and that situation is still the same. But they didn't really delve into things like we've talked about, like the alcoholism. They did a little bit about the res gangs, but I always think that it's tough for natives to talk about alcoholism or our experiences with alcohol without making it really depressing.
Yeah.
But then, if you're somebody that's partied on the res before, you have good times. It's not all just doom and gloom. You know what I mean? There were fun times.
There's
when you went out with your buddies and got drunk.
There's always that one house that has the party house there. And, you're always bringing the extra 30 pack to keep the party going.
Exactly. So. And then some lucky bastard out there, because gets lucky and gets with somebody that they probably normally wouldn't have gone with had that person been sober.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's kind of a good segue.
Turns out it's your cousin.
No clans after after 6 cans, no clans.
Yeah, what was it? After 10, no whatever. I don't know what that saying is.
After 3 shots, no.
But I guess you could say that the Reservation Dogs, just to clarify, is it's more like that stereotypical part of being Native American, but in a stereotypical way of how we see Native American,
how we see ourselves.
How we see ourselves.
It's us stereotyping ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, the white people kind of see it that way as well too, but yeah.
And so, but today's topic is Reservation Dogs. And like I said, not about the TV show, but rather about Native men.
Yeah.
And the original thought behind me wanting to do an episode about Native men kind of actually stemmed from an experience that I had during our break. And really, when I wanted to talk about Native men, I wanted to talk about us from the side of how we interact with women from a romantic standpoint.
Yeah.
But really more from the, I guess, kind of more of the dirty side, the diabolical side, the despicable side, whatever you want to call it. But basically, being man whores and how, men out here on the reservation. And I know that this isn't just an occurrence with reservation men, but men, probably from all walks of life and all different types of communities, and men, basically going through this process of having multiple sexual relationships simultaneously, with different women.
I heard different stories about how, back in the past, a lot of men would get with other women, and because there's this one person that said that when I heard about my grandma and my grandpa being quote unquote swingers back in the day, it kind of put her in this perspective view of damn, this is really real, on the Hopi reservation. I was like, it's so what are you doing that?
And I guess that's kind of a good thing to kind of identify, because I really didn't want this to be kind of like a man bashing type of episode, or a man hating episode, because you do hear that dialogue out there a lot on social media from different folks. You hear the term "men ain't shit," or you hear the terms that all men are dogs. And sitting next to you, I know that phrase is 100% not true. But and that is the one thing that you do. We're going to primarily speak on men, but you do know of women that are considered quote unquote hoes, which is a term that we used to use back in my day. I don't know what the term is now. Or women that would have promiscuous behaviors.
It's now called whores.
and so it's not really just a man thing. Men only do this. It's not just a women thing that women only do this, but really it's a people thing. It's a people thing, but definitely I wanted to talk about it on the perspective from two men talking about men and our dealings in promiscuity and womanizing. Man whoring, I think, is another term that's out there. But, really, I got the inspiration to talk about this. A friend of mine was having problems. She had been seeing an individual on the down low. And, I think that anytime there's any type of down low relationships, it's always going to end bad because, somebody is ashamed to tell the world that you're seeing this person. And so, but, she told me about, an issue that she had with an individual who she had been seeing. And so obviously, feelings developed and, there wasn't a clear communication of what that relationship was. And, come for her to find out, unfortunately, that this individual that she was seeing a lot of other women.
Okay.
And so, that destroyed her. And so,
wait. She was seeing another man. Oh, another man. Okay.
And the man
I got lost in it.
That she was seeing a lot of other women.
Oh, okay.
That she didn't know about.
Oh, okay.
And then, me being a friend, I care about this person. And so, it made me feel bad. I felt bad for her.
Yeah.
I felt a little angry for, a guy to treat her this way. But then it made me think and it made me reflect about myself, because then I think that one pitfall that people fall into is that when you hear about a different individual doing something wrong, that it's really easy to say, oh, I can't believe they did that.
Yeah.
What an asshole.
Oh, yeah.
Or what a bitch, or, whatever term it was. But then, you think about, well, have I ever done something like that? Have I ever made mistakes? And, it's like the Bible, Jesus Christ said, he who cast the first stones throw rocks or something like that.
An eye for an eye or whatever it's called.
Nurturing Indigenous Intelligence is a grassroots team comprised of artists, business owners, tribal ambassadors, and most importantly, concerned community members. They are focused on the need of school essentials for many of our Indigenous scholars. They can be found on Facebook, and you can email them at nurturingisquared@gmail.com.
And so, that really made me think about myself and what I've experienced, some of the things that I've done and what I've seen other men do, and, other men, what their stories are for those that, that I've heard a little bit about. And so really that was kind of where I was going with wanting to have this Reservation Dogs episode and to do a full episode on that. But then while we were doing our break, on our Instagram, I shouted out the question, recommendations for topic episodes.
Yeah.
And then this one topic constantly kept coming up, men's health, because I don't think that conversation around men's health is real prominent, because for the most part, we don't go to the hospital.
No.
We choose not to go to the hospital.
I rather die from what I have than go to the hospital later on. So,
and so, that kind of made me think as to the topic of today and what we could talk about, because then, we're multifaceted beings.
Yeah.
Native men, especially reservation men, and our upbringings, how we were raised, the types of things that we were taught to believe in, the emotions that we feel from certain things, a lot of the different things that we're involved with that either make us feel sad, make us feel mad, make us feel either good about ourselves or make us feel like complete shit, and the type of weight that is thrown on top of us as to what our expectations are from our clans, from our villages, from our communities.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
From our family members, friends, how we see each other. And so that was kind of the genesis for the topic of this episode. But definitely I did want to get into this topic of womanizing because you see it often.
Oh, yeah.
You hear about it. And we've talked about it to a degree in various episodes, I think really primarily in our relationship episodes where we've talked about how being little kids in the village running around and being educated in a certain way of how we're supposed to determine our manliness, determine how much of a man you are. And definitely one of those is the amount of women that you can get with or the type of women that you can get with.
You know, when I was telling that story about, one of the listeners that had this revelation of having her grandma as her grandma and grandpa as being swingers, she came to the conclusion that Hopi is not a monogamous tradition. You know, we're not just one man, one woman. It's weird in a way because when you look at it, the past history. You see that you don't have one man, one woman, multiple kids, but you don't see like the underlying or the underbelly of Hopi tradition is that like way back then, men would cheat on their wives all the time, with the younger sister, as a matter of fact, or with another clan lady in another village. And it's always been like that. And it's that idea of how Hopi is in a way and how we treat women on the Hopi reservation that comes to the conclusion that men are womanizers, that men have this notation. Hopi men have this notation that, the more women that they get, the more solidarity their ego can rise to, especially in the men's society, the men's cult.
Definitely. And I think by those standards, I think that you're very low on the totem pole, Carl. And so I'm
high up on the women's totem pole.
I'm not going to brag about how high up or how low I am. And so, but it's what you're saying is very true because I did have a conversation with one of my colleagues one time, and she was telling me, she said that you think about the elders, the older people, the wuwiyangtam, and you have so much respect for them because they have knowledge about our ceremonial practices. They can speak our language. They have recollections of the histories of our villages, of our communities. But then you don't realize that they were once young too.
Oh, yeah.
And that they were musi, just like the rest of us. Hopi word of the day, musi means horny. So, and so they were like that, just like the rest of us.
Yeah.
And so she was telling me that, I didn't realize how much adultery went on within our communities until you start going to baby namings or some sort of naya or, some sort of, big thing where there's lots of people.
Yeah.
They're talking to each other. And, of course, women get to gossiping and they start talking about past relationships. And she would tell me that I didn't learn that this older man in my community had multiple wives or multiple lovers. And I didn't figure this out until I went to a natya.
Yeah.
And I learned that he had relationships with this woman and had a kid and didn't know that, that person's belongs to this man. That's their father. Or had a relationship with another woman and so forth and so forth. And so, she was telling me that you really learn about people at these things, at these different things about what their relationship history has been. And so, you're very correct in saying that this is something that isn't new. This isn't something that can be totally blamed on social media or totally blamed on the internet, totally blamed on technology, some of the things that we like to blame, even though really a lot of the times the fault is looking at us in the mirror. But that really is a reality. And, one of the things that I wanted to talk about in womanizing and the way that we were brought up is that, and we've talked about this before, is that there are a lot of sexual talk that goes on
Yes.
on our reservation. And so, men will brag to each other about their conquests, and women only talk about sex when they're talking to each other.
It's weird how, in a way, that when you see an individual woman by themselves, they're kind, they're professional, they
speak real
pleasant, and then when they get with their
good
sisters
words.
And
people closest to them,
women closest to them, their sisters, their cousins, and they babble on
and this.
Oh my God, the stuff that they say out of their mouths, we cannot say this on this podcast.
Did you see Carl's little pussy?
And every time they say something nasty, it's this cackle
It's a roar.
It's a roar. Like, and that's all you hear, like, in the next room. And it's like every 2 minutes, you'll hear like a dead silence, like, and it's like that all day, especially when you're at like a function, like a baby naming or like a Naya or any type of ceremonies that's going on. You'll hear that, especially in the kitchen. The women in the kitchen. Oh my God, you stay out of there. You just might as well just stay out of there till it's time to eat.
So this is a thought for you. For all the delicious tacos that we eat, the good biki that we consume.
Yeah.
To think that all that was made when they were talking about guasi.
True. Actually, that is true. Yeah.
I think we're going to have to revisit that LGBTQ episode. No, I'm just kidding. But, there are, I guess the point is that there are a lot of influences in place on our reservations to cause us to be promiscuous, whether that's women or men. And then, we've talked a little bit too about the relationship between a young boy and his guests and what that relationship is between an individual and their paternal aunties. Yeah. That it's a very sexual type of relationship without the sex, I guess. Yeah. Because then, there's a lot of teasing. And then, like sometimes the women will be at the garden, like maybe somebody planted zucchini or squash or something. And then, they'll pull something out and it's really big. Yeah. And they'll say, oh, it looks like my nephew's. Yeah. Referring to his guasi. His schlong. and talk like that is acceptable. Like that's just how we are.
It's a more of an understanding that this is something how Hopi has been doing a lot of things like this. It's ingrained into our culture.
And there's also other things too, especially in regards to the ceremony, how they talk about the rain and the relationship between the clouds and the earth, a lot of other different components about different things that have a sexual component, because really it's not about sex to be nasty or to be nesty is the reservation way of saying it, but it's about sex for reproduction purposes. And one could argue that the purpose of life, and I hope you're ready for this down, is procreation.
Oh, yeah.
That the purpose of life is to create life, because without creating life, we have no future. And that's a big part of Hopi philosophy. And that's why a lot of sexual components are intertwined with ceremony or are a part of our everyday conversation, because without sex, we have no future.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's kind of some of the things that are in place, I guess, from a cultural side of who we are as Hopis, but not to blame just that side. Yeah. On why it is that we are the way that we are. But then you think about growing up, right? You think about growing up as a kid out here, and it starts early too, like it starts in grade school when you start talking about girls, because oftentimes a lot of us have older siblings, older cousins that talk to us. And then at a very young age, even into middle school, that the big accomplishment is to have sex for the first time. And then so when you're a young boy, and if you haven't gotten some yet, you're always made to feel less than or made to feel low about yourself because you haven't gotten any.
In grade school, my thing was to become a ninja and not talk about girls anymore. So,
yeah, I know you didn't have a lot of friends back then. So didn't peer pressure you into getting laid. So.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think I've heard Kwa talk shit about you before. So.
the whole, like what you said before, the whole idea is to create life, to procreate, is to create something that like a legacy and to create something that can further on the Hopi culture. And that is true. Young children learn this at a very young age, is that, yes, this is what needs to be done like that, but at a certain time. And so to have this like flirtatious kind of culture is just part of how Hopi preparing you for these types of things like that. And not necessarily that, young girls would get pregnant at a certain age like that, but it's just for you to kind of understand that sex is part of life. Sex is something natural, pretty much.
So when you're on your various streaming channels, you're while you're doing yourself, you're thinking about the clouds and you're praying for rain.
When you're on the computer, $9.95 a month
on your illegal sites. But that is true, because then like as young children, especially by older Hopis, that we're always encouraged that they would talk about our lives.
Yeah,
they would always say that you're gonna grow up, you're gonna be a farmer, you're gonna marry a Hopi, and you're gonna have lots of kids.
Yeah,
like a lot of us are told that as kids, as young children, believing that we're actually gonna get married, have children. And I remember one of the, I guess, more embarrassing things is that when I was a child, that I was I was insecure about being naked.
Yeah.
And so I would think, well, if I ever do get a wife, I hope I can do it with my shorts on.
Do it with all the lights out in the city.
What did I know back then?
I believe you. I believe that, because back then we never thought about anything like that. It was our uncles and our aunties that used to tease us about these different things like that. Mm-hmm. And it kind of shows you the way that how Hopi grew up and how we grew up in society, and throughout that whole type of genre, I guess you could say. In the white man's world, it's not like that. It's all hidden for them. It's all hidden in that way.
Because it's inappropriate.
It's inappropriate. Or
at least in their eyes it is.
Yeah, exactly.
It's inappropriate. But I guess, back to the topic of, because I guess we did a pretty good job of laying down that thought. But what happens when the sexuality becomes imbalanced? That's when we start sleeping with multiple women.
Yeah.
That's when women take multiple men.
Yeah.
And have kids for different people. And that's kind of, I guess, a negative aspect to that when it goes too far.
Yeah.
Like in anything in life, it can go too far. It's okay to go out and drink one beer, and then if you stop after that, you're okay.
Yeah.
But when you drink 6 beers, that's when you're asking for problems.
Exactly.
Or if you smoke 1 cigarette, and then that's it for a month, you're okay. But then when it's a pack a day for a full month, then you're asking for problems. And so, this whole conversation around our sexuality and our, I guess, how we perceive sex, talk about sex, because then, even in this day and age, that sex is still like a real taboo.
It is a very
conversation.
Taboo.
And, that was kind of one of the thoughts that I had, is that why is sex such a taboo conversation for us to have with our partners? Because as we documented, that when the women talk to each other, they talk about sex.
Yeah.
When the men go into the kiva or hang out with each other, they're talking about sex.
Yeah.
But for some reason, when it comes to a relationship, a husband and his wife, they don't talk about sex. They don't talk about, I guess, like talking about it in a healthy way.
Yeah.
To where it's actually helping their relationship. And on the white man's side, they're through like Bahan studies and things like that, where they research and do data and things like that. There is proof that a healthy sexual relationship is beneficial
when
to
talking,
a relationship.
To talking about
because
sex
then
like
you're
that.
talking about it. You're telling your partner what it is that you like, what you don't like, trying to spice things up, and trying to get yourself to a level to where you're both comfortable and actually getting excited about each other physically.
In high school, did you take that class, that sex education class in high school? Were you part of that?
I don't think so.
No, I was. They separated us from the boys and the girls. So then we would see like the movie with the boys and the girls, like the reproduction system, the whole sex ed stuff and things like that. And, being a kid back then, you see things like that. And then you're like, this is what a woman goes through like every 30 days and stuff like that. And you wonder to yourself, like, I never
then you
knew
start
that.
thinking,
then you start thinking
God,
about
every
that
day that you're born.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh my God. It's like, I'm so glad I'm a man right now. And in that kind of era, we learned a lot. We learned a lot about like the women's side. We learned a lot about how to treat women in a way when they're in their state like that.
When they're being sacred.
Yeah. When they're being sacred in the sacred hut, and nowadays it's not like that. You don't have that type of teachings anymore. You don't have that in schools anymore because it's so taboo to teach something like that.
I think they still teach it in schools.
Do they still teach that in schools?
Sure.
I don't know. I never went.
I'm pretty sure.
I don't know.
I don't see why they wouldn't.
Yeah,
I believe it's part of their physical education.
Really?
We're going to have an episode where we're going to talk about, there's a term for it. I think it's called anecdotal.
Okay.
And what that means is that you think that because you heard it from one source that it's true.
Yeah.
But not knowing that
it is true.
That it's not really true because you're only taking the answers from one small sample size. So when you tell me, an example of anecdotal is when you, Carl, tell me, J-Man, that our listeners want 2 episodes a day. I know that you didn't go out there with a survey and survey 500 of our listeners. I know that you went to the post office, you got your mail, you heard it from your mail lady, and then all of a sudden it's our listeners want 2 episodes. Well, and shout out to your mail lady.
Oh yeah, shout out to the mail lady. She is moving to a better place, so she's not going to be my mail lady anymore. So, yeah, so big shout out to her. About that. So wherever she lands on her feet, hope she can still deliver my mail.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry for taking us on that detour, but when you make certain types of comments, it just really lights a fire in me, and then I got to kind of straighten things back out. But I guess
but it is true. 2 episodes. I'm pretty sure people want 2 episodes a week.
You fought me just to extend the episodes to 50 minutes. Let's not get into that. That's called getting ourselves in the weeds. I'll keep educating you as we.
I don't want to listen to myself.
Continue on this educational journey. But, going back to, I guess, as young lads and, trying to navigate through life, but all of those different types of influences were present in terms of setting us up to become womanizers.
Yeah.
Because then, as much as we've talked about how the sexual components and discussions are within Hopi culture, but it is still considered from a cultural experience to be what they call kohopi. And this is a term that we've talked about several times through our podcast, that being kohopi means that you're misbehaving, or that you're a person out of good behavior. And so when they talk about men that have multiple women or are in consecutive sexual relationships simultaneously, that is still viewed as kohopi. That is still viewed as something that's not good. And, one of the examples of that, where that comes from, is because in Hopi, in our culture, that we do have a concept of heaven and hell.
Oh, yeah.
To a degree. And so what we're taught is that if you're a person that lived a bad life, that you're not worthy enough to go to wherever it is that the good people go to, that you take this longer trail to heaven, I guess. So in a way, we all kind of go to the same place.
Yeah.
But it just takes the bad people a lot longer to get there. And what they say is that the men that are man whores, that when they take this journey, that they wear a necklace made out of lewas, the woman's vagina.
Yeah.
And that's to show the people that are passing by that this man lived this type of life. And I say woman vagina because there are men out there that I think are a bunch of nous.
So your necklace would be like a big old chain full of everything there?
Full of tacos.
Full of brownies.
Nachos.
Mine would be like pizzas.
Yours would be yoo-hoos.
Yoo-hoos and pizzas.
And so, the idea of being promiscuous, the idea of being a womanizer, at least talking about the males, that is perceived as Hopi.
Yeah.
That is perceived as something that's bad. But then yet, like a lot of the influences are there. Like we've talked about how our older males kind of talk about your worth as a man being measured by how many women you slept with, the quality of women that you've been with, and then also too that a lot of that type of where I guess it's kind of promoted is in the TV shows that we watch and the music that we listen to. Because then I recently went on this rabbit hole on iTunes where I started listening to a lot of old music that I used to listen to back in my high school days, music that I used to listen to in my early college years. And I was like, God damn, no wonder why I was kind of the way that I was back then, or no wonder why I had this certain mentality that I had back then. And, I was listening to a certain song that I really liked. And I remember recalling back in those days when that song was still fairly brand new. And when I would listen to it, like I would sing these lyrics at the top of my lungs because I thought that, it was something that was true. And it was something that I made you pause our recording before we started to record because I wanted to get the lyrics. And so that lyric says, condom filling with semen, the physical presence of a female is the form of a demon. That's why I fuck them and leave them and get my nut while I'm breathing.
Oh my God. Can we say that on the podcast?
They're going to triple X-ray our show now. So I guess bye-bye Apple Podcast.
Yeah, exactly. So young listeners, what you just heard that was candy bags full of candy there. So
Terraform Development is a Navajo and Hopi-owned engineering, architectural, and project management firm located in northern Arizona. The company has full-time staff and comprises of Navajo and Hopi employees. Terraform services include civil engineering, residential design, drone mapping, and project management on projects for your need. Terraform is a Priority 1 Navajo certified business and Hopi business license certified. Contact Terraform Development at TERRA4ORM.com and follow them on Instagram at Terraform Development.
And so, but then, that type of music was out there. And that type of music was out there. That type of music was molding young brains like myself.
Yeah.
Molding young brains like other individuals. And so we thought it was cool to be like that. We thought that it was cool that, I'm going to get these girls, I'm going to love them and then leave them because I got what I wanted and now I'm out.
It's weird because back in the day, back in 1980s, 90s, you heard a lot of those types of lyrics. And yeah, you are true when you said that it influenced your little boy mind to see that. And yeah, it was true. A lot of these boys out there are like, slapping women and slapping everybody that they could get because that's what that was the cool thing to do. And without that, you're not cool enough to do that.
Because it was a way of, I'm brave enough to do this.
And when you hear that and when you see that and you're not brave enough to do that, that makes you a weaker man to do something like that.
Exactly. And, I think it's kind of interesting, though, because then, this is something that I don't think that we've ever really talked about. But I know that you and I are similar in the way that we were raised. Because you were raised by Soul and Kwa, and I think that you've mentioned it too before on the podcast that you were raised to respect women.
Oh, yeah.
That you were raised to not do bad things.
Yeah.
And I was also to a degree raised by both my souls because when parents were working, my souls took care of me and my nephew. And so it was one of my souls that I always remember and I always took to heart everything that she would say to me. She would always say things like, as a boy, you should never do this to a girl, never hit a girl. Or never mislead a girl into thinking that you like her when you really don't, things like this. And she will always say to us, it's because you're physically stronger that you have to have more respect for women because of this dynamic that how nature created our genders. And so I took that to a degree. I took that to heart for as far as I could in my life. But I think like anything else in terms of our vices, like let's say, you drink water your entire life.
Yeah.
And then finally you drink Kool-Aid. But all your life you're told, don't drink juice. Don't drink juice. It's going to give you cavities. Your teeth are going to fall out. Only drink water. Then you drink the Kool-Aid and then you start thinking, oh, my teeth didn't fall out. That tasted really good.
Yeah.
I'm going to drink some more. That tasted really good. I'm going to drink some more. I'm going to drink some more. And then, you're constantly drinking more, which is the same with alcohol. It's the same with drugs. And then to a degree, it's the same with sex.
Yeah.
Because then I've had a lot of conversations with friends that are females. And, they ask me all the time, they'll, say it straight out, how come men are dogs?
Oh, yeah.
How come men are dogs? And for me, the short answer is always it's because we're mussy, because we're horny all the time. And, that's all we think about.
Because G-Unit said that.
Because G-Unit said that.
G-Unit said that I have to be.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be a thug. And
see the cab, it's backwards.
But getting more in depth with these conversations, when I talk to my female friends about our thought process behind all this, they have a real hard time in believing that we don't have full control of ourselves.
Yeah.
When we're out there whoring around, when we're out there being man whores, because they think it's just like a light switch. You can turn it off and on.
Yeah.
How come you guys are dogs? How come you can't just not be like that? And it's like, because it's like in our minds, we think that whoring around gives us some value. In our minds, we feel good about ourselves because we think that, oh, these women want my attention or they want me in their bed.
That is one thing that you can blame on media, is that the music has influenced us as young minds, especially us young Hopi boys.
Mm-hmm.
The music, the movies have influenced us in that way. And that's what you can kind of blame on that. But you can't blame it all the way because of the way that we do live and the way that our culture is brought up. And that the way that our uncles have been teaching us these different things, or have we seen it in our fathers,
our male role models.
Male role models, and how they treat women and how they treated their wives or their better halves of their, and that's some things that you just cannot change. Is there, and that still comes up with the question is that how do we remedy this whole thing like that?
How do we remedy this? And real quick too, before we continue, sorry for the people out there that wanted for us to talk about men's health. I think that this episode is purely going to be dedicated for male promiscuity. But and one of the things that you're talking about social media, and that was something that I definitely wanted to bring up before we talk quickly about about how we remedied the situation. Is that. Very recently, the Res Famous wife told me that I guess there's a trend going on here on Hopi, where a lot of the younger girls are starting to blast all of the males that are sliding into their DMs.
Really?
And so, they're screenshotting their DMs. So, it shows the profile name of who's in there.
Yeah.
And they would share the picture. And, and so she told me that. And, I think she told me that for a specific reason. I think that when she told me that, I was like, oh, really? But I think she was trying to look at my face to think if it was
you.
But I promise to you all out there, I am best behaving as best as I can.
My thing is to slide into girls' DMs for like recipes.
and so, she was telling me that this was going on, that girls were starting to share their DMs of who's in it, because then I didn't realize this, but I didn't realize that a lot of guys slide into girls' DMs.
Really?
Because I guess I just kind of think of social media as my own practice.
Yeah.
I would never send a girl an unsolicited wussy pic. I would never slide into a girl's DMs knowing that I'm a married man and then say, hey, beautiful. You know what I mean? I would never do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so not knowing that guys are actually doing this, Hopi guys, native men, not just Hopi guys, but native men. And so I learned more that this was something that was going on. And so I think that that's kind of where social media does change this practice of us being gross, because then now there's proof of it that you're doing that. That if you're going to slide into a girl's DMs, that they can screenshot it and save it. That way, if they want to blast you later, that they're able to do that. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
I remember one of the things that the Res Famous wife would always tell me, she would say that, just because you're telling a girl hi, that they're going to interpret it however it is that they want to interpret it.
Exactly.
And they're going to tell their friends that J-Man's in my DMs. He's trying to holler at me because he said hi. And so, she would tell me things like that. And then, I think she was telling me that for a reason. Obviously, she's the Res Famous wife. But then, it really made me think because, this was a part of the conversation that I kind of wanted to have at the beginning, but then we got to talking to something else. Is that even though that people are promiscuous, whether that be males or females, that we do have these conversations about our conquests.
Yeah.
That people do lie. People out there do lie about who they've been with. They do lie about who is interested in them. And I think that a lot of people do lie because they're trying to make themselves seem better or look better in terms of who is in their DMs, whether that's literally or metaphorically, those that are trying to holler at them. And so, this is kind of like a real big thing to navigate in terms of how an individual's practices are for getting attention from the opposite sex or from the sexual orientation that you're trying to get attention from. Because I think that especially now in this day and age where people do have the power to record and keep track of what it is that you're saying to others, that you have to really watch yourself out there now. And that's a part of an education for the younger generation, for your kids, for your nieces, for your nephews, godsons, goddaughters, that if you're going to be involved with social media and if you're going to use it to try to get attention from the desired sexual orientations that you want, that these are some of the pitfalls.
Oh, yeah.
That people could expose you if you're being bad. Because there was this incident that happened, I want to say within the last year, that a young girl exposed this older guy that was sliding into her DMs, calling her beautiful, trying to get her attention. And so she screenshotted his messages and shared it on Facebook. And then several other younger girls got in the messages and said that this exact same guy is doing this to me, screenshotted their messages from him, and they all posted it.
Really? Dang, really? I didn't know that. I didn't know that, that does happen on the reservation.
And that was out here on Hopi.
It just kind of boggles your mind that a lot of these things that do happen like that. I'm not blaming the person or anything like that. It's just how maybe they took it in the wrong direction in that way, or maybe they were just trying to get revenge on somebody. It's all these little different factors like that.
And I think it happens for different reasons.
Yeah.
I think people get blasted for revenge. I think people get blasted just because the other person that's blasting them is a hater.
Oh, yeah.
Or, maybe they do deserve to get blasted and then they're getting blasted because they did something stupid and deserve to get blasted. But, you did ask that question, how do we remedy this situation?
Yeah, so how do we remedy
How
this
do
thing
we
here?
educate our young boys to be better than some of us that weren't so great when we were younger, trying to hold the mantle, trying to live this life of a G-Unit soldier and trying to fulfill those types of glories and celebrations and things like that. And, I guess to me, I think that a lot of it starts with the homes from these homes.
It does.
These kids are being raised. And I think a lot of it has to do with people like us, males, being good role models to these kids and showing them that being monogamous, being faithful to your partner is a respectable thing to do. Because there are guys out there that I believe truly are monogamous and that they truly do only give their attention
To one woman.
to their woman.
Yeah.
And those guys I respect the hell out of because there's so much temptation out there, especially with social media and especially with the internet giving us accessibilities to certain types of things that we shouldn't really be on, but we're on them because we have these sexual urges.
To all sum it up and everything like that, we just have to learn how to become a better man. Let's look at, watch these men out here, these old school men out here, I should say, that they do have multiple wives, that they do have a lot of children from different villages. And when you look at them, you say that I don't want to be like that.
I don't want to be like that.
Yeah. And then you take that example and say that, how can I make that better for myself? And then that's how you can become that person as a good person, not necessarily as a great person. It's, like I said before, it's not about trying to be a perfect person. It's trying to be a better person than you were before.
The best person that you can be.
Yeah, and that's how life is. And like womanizing, all of these different things like that, it's never going to stop.
It sounds fun.
It sounds fun.
Life in the fast lane.
It looks fun on TV and sounds fun on, music, but in reality,
STD.
Yeah, reality, you have all of the
pregnancy.
Have all the acronyms that are associated with that. But,
getting canceled by cancel culture.
Before we head on
I was
out,
going to say that the easiest solution is that you just cut all of our
son and be eunuchs. A eunuch society.
God damn.
So, thank you for listening this far into the podcast. This is season 6, episode 1. I thank you guys again for tuning in, for bringing us joy. And we like to do the same thing for you, give you a little bit of education and whatnot. And so we're excited here to bring this for you for season 6. So listen every Wednesday. And we will make sure that we'll pleasure your ear holes pretty much.
Pleasuring your ear holes would also be another solution.
Yeah, exactly.
Rather than pleasuring other areas. But we'd like to thank you all for giving us a listen. If you're not subscribed to any of our social media accounts, we can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Carl and J-Man. If you're listening to this on YouTube, because you will be, because I will make Carl put this episode on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell to give you notifications when new videos come up. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, don't forget to give us a 5-star review. That really does help us out. And big shout out, big thank you to all of our sponsors. Big shout out to Anchor.fm, who is actually giving us money this season again.
Oh, yeah.
Just like last season. And so big thank you to those guys. And then if you would like to sponsor us, give us an email, shoot us an email at carlandjman85 at .gmail.
cjpodcast85@gmail.com.
Thank you. I think that's it for me.
All right. Well, thank you again for listening to Carl and J-Man Save the World podcast. My name is Carl, and this is my best friend, J-Man.
So long. Quack, quack.